Most of the world celebrates Women's Day in March. Ours remembers 20,000 women who marched in 1956. You know, every year when Women's Day comes around, I wonder how many of us actually remember why we celebrate it. But for me, Women's Day has always been about remembering the women who marched to the Union buildings in 1956. And I think they're worth remembering. What's interesting is that the rest of the world celebrates International Women's Day on the 8th of March. It's a day that celebrates women and what we've achieved, but also reminds us that there's still work to do. When it comes to women's rights and equality, we believe in all of that too. But that's not why our Women's Day is on the 9th of August. Ours comes from something that happened right here in South Africa. On the 9th of August 1956, about 20,000 women made their way to the Union buildings in Pretoria. 20,000 women. Can you imagine what that must have looked like? And remember, this was 1956. There was no WhatsApp group where someone could say, right, we're all meeting in Pretoria on Thursday. Somehow, 20,000 women came together. African women, Indian women, colored women, and white women. And at a time when apartheid was deliberately keeping people away, these women stood together. So why were they there? The government wanted to extend the past laws to black women. And these weren't small restrictions. They affected where black people could live, where they could work, and even where they were allowed to go. And the women were saying no. But what I also think is important is that women who weren't subjected to those past laws stood alongside the women who were. They stood together against something they knew was wrong. They carried petitions to the Union buildings, and then they did something that I think is quite extraordinary. 20,000 women stood there in silence for 30 minutes. 20,000 people and not a word. That's incredible. And that's why we celebrate Women's Day on the 9th of August. It's the anniversary of that march. So yes, most of the world celebrates International Women's Day in March. But here in South Africa, the 9th of August is about remembering these women and what they stood for. You know, it's almost 70 years later. And sometimes I wonder if we've become so used to Women's Day being a public holiday that we've forgotten the women behind it. Because they didn't know how their story was going to end. They didn't know what South Africa would look like one day. They just knew that what was happening was wrong. And they were prepared to stand together and say so. And I don't want us to forget that. And maybe that's why remembering these women matters so much to me. Because when you know what happened, and you know what people had to go through to change it, you understand why remembering it matters. I never want us to forget what it took for us to get here, and especially what can happen when people decide to stand together. So when Women's Day comes around, celebrate it, enjoy the day, and maybe somewhere in all of that, take a moment to remember why it's the 9th of August. And to the women who marched to the Union buildings in 1956, thank you. We remember you. Happy Women's Day, South Africa.